Okay. I start at read verse 1. Start at verse 1 real quick. Read verse 1.
All
Now
right.
I wanted to go into something, and when I'm going into this, I'm gonna round it off with that question, the war, and what does it mean for us as the children of Israel? And I want y'all input on this, and what does it mean in these times when it comes to what we're seeing. All right. So read what you see, bro. 13 and 1.
All right. Isaiah 13 and 1. The burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amoz did see.
All right, now go down to verse 17. Go to verse 17.
All right. 17. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Their
Mm-hmm.
bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare children.
Mm-hmm. Keep
And
going.
Babylon, the glory of the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there. And wild beasts of the island shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces. And her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged.
All right. So I gotta improvise now because everything totally one love. Everything totally one love the way it was about to go to because I don't know some technical difficulties. But now I gotta improvise, but that's okay. Now check this out. So we checking out read verse 22 again for me, bro. Read verse 22.
All right. Verse 22. And the wild beasts of the island shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces. And her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged.
All right, so what we see right here, we see that Babylon is on a time, it has an expiration date. All right, Babylon has an expiration date. However, this is going to play out. All right, however it's going to play out. But read verse 17 for me again, though, because now it's questions about the Medes, about okay, is this war Bible prophecy, and things like that. Read verse 17 for me again.
Right, verse 17. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it.
The Medes. Who was the Medes? Go to Genesis real quick. Genesis chapter 10. Go to Genesis chapter 10 and go to read verse 1 and 2. All right.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 10, and verse 1. Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah: Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, Tubal, and Meshach, and Tiras.
Madai. We see Madai. All right, that's Madai. That's what I wanted. I wanted to get that. So we know that's Jaffa, right? And they some people saying, oh, is this Bible prophecy? This because this is the medians there. They come from Jaffa. They Jaffa. All right. But read verse 21 and 22. Read verse 21 and 22 real quick.
All right, verse 21. Unto Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth, the elder, even to him were born children. I think we lost. Oh, you there? Okay, all
Read
right.
verse 22. You read verse 22?
Here I go. The children of Shem, Elam, and Ashur, and Arphaxad, and Lud, and Aram.
All right, Elam. That's what I wanted you to read. Elam. All right, now remember that. Remember what we just read. Now go to Isaiah 21. Go to Isaiah 21 start at verse read verse 1. Start at verse 1.
All right. The book of Isaiah 21 and verse 1. The burden of the desert of the sea, as whirlwinds in the south pass through, so it cometh from the desert, from a terrible land. A grievous vision is declared unto me. The treacherous dealer dealeth treacherously, and the spoiler spoileth. Go up, O Elam, besiege, O Media. All
He
the
said,
sight.
hold on, read that again. Read that again.
Go up, O Elam, besiege, O Media.
Mm-hmm.
All the sighing thereof have I made to cease.
All right. Now, can you see my screen? It's loading up. Right there.
Yep.
All right. So there we go. I now make this bigger. There we go. All right, now read verse 2 again. Read verse 2.
A grievous vision is declared unto me. The treacherous dealer dealeth treacherously, and the spoiler spoileth. Go up, O Elam, besiege, O Media.
So the Most High, so Isaiah is seeing a vision of, seeing Elam going up to besiege in Media. Okay, keep going.
All the sighing thereof have I made to cease. Therefore are my loins filled with pain. Pains have taken hold of me upon me, and the pains of a woman that travaileth. I was bowed down at the hearing of it. I was dismayed at the seeing of it. My heart pain, fearfulness affrighted me. The night of my pleasure have he turned into fear unto me. Prepare the table, watch in the tower, eat, drink, arise, ye princes, and anoint the shield.
He telling Elam, which is Persia. He telling them he's telling them which they besieged, they took over Media. Now people have to understand Cyrus conquered Media in 550 BC. All right, in BC 550 BCE, Cyrus the Great conquered Media. All right, now. All right, now, yeah. So keep reading. So he's telling them, prepare the table, watch the tower, eat, drink, arise, ye princes, and anoint the shield. Get ready for war. Keep going.
All right, verse 6. For thus have the Most High said unto me, go, set a watchman, let him declare what he seeth. 7. And he saw a chariot with a couple of horsemen, a chariot of asses, and a chariot of camels. And he hearkened diligently with much heed. Verse 8. And he cried, a lion, my Lord, I stand continually upon the watchtower in the daytime, and I am set in my ward whole nights. Verse 9. And behold, here cometh a chariot of men with a couple of horsemen. And he answered and said, Babylon is fallen, and all the graven images of her gods he have broken unto the ground.
So he told Elam, go take Media. You bring that together. Cyrus, he brought that kingdom together in 550 BCE. He brought that kingdom together, and they went to war with Babylon, and they took over Babylon. All right, now just vibe with me real second. Just vibe with me, because I'm gonna bring it into the question. I'm gonna bring y'all in, but just vibe with me real quick. All right, because people asking, is this Bible prophecy? Is this Bible prophecy? Can we see this? Is this Bible? Because they confused of who the Medes is. They confused of what took place with Elam and the Medes. They confused and asking, is this Bible prophecy? All right, now, so now we can go to Jeremiah real quick. We go to Jeremiah real quick, and I'm gonna make this fast. All right, we're gonna make this fast. Now, Jeremiah 51. Can you read verse 11? Read verse 11 right here for me, bro.
All right. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 51 and verse 11. Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. The Most High have raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes, for his device is against Babylon to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of the Most High, the vengeance of his temple.
Okay, hold on. So Jeremiah and Isaiah, they was prophesying way before King Cyrus went and took Media. All right, and brung those two king brung Persia and Media together, and what call it what we know today as the emperor, as the Empire of Persia, or as Medo-Persia. They was prophesying before Cyrus the Great did that. So when we see this, when we see Jeremiah mentioning the Medes, and he not mentioning Persia, because that hasn't happened yet. And when you see Isaiah mentioning the Medes and he don't mention Persia, Medo-Persia Empire, because that hasn't happened yet. All right. And then on top of that, Isaiah prophesied that Persia, Elam would come and take over me. They take over Media, and they would actually be one empire that will fight against Babylon. All right. Now I wanted this the writing on the wall, because we know what Ecclesiastes say, you know, is nothing new underneath the sun. But then also in Deuteronomy, we know that it has, you know, what it has when it comes to remember the days of old. All right, so I want us to remember the writing on the wall. Remember the writing on the wall, and this is the last thing I'm gonna bring y'all in. Remember the writing on the wall. We're gonna go to Daniel. Daniel chapter 5. All right, so Daniel chapter 5. And Benaiah, can you read verse 22? Start at verse 22.
All right. Daniel chapter 5 and verse 22. And thou, his son, O Belshazzar, hast not humbled thine heart, though thou knewest all this. 23. But hast lifted up thyself against the Most High of heaven, and they have brought the vessels of his house before thee. And thou and thy lords, thy wives, and thy concubines have drunk wine in them. And thou hast praised the gods of silver and gold and brass, iron, wood, and stone, which see not, nor hear, nor know. And the Most High, in whose hand thy breathe is, and whose are all thy ways, hast thou not glorified. Then was the part of the hand sent from him, and his writing was written. 25. And this is the writing that was written: Mene, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. 26. This is the interpretation of the thing. Mene, God have numbered thy kingdom and finished it. Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances and art found wanting. 28. Paris, thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians.
It's given to the Medes and Persia is given to, so now Daniel is solidifying that the Medes and the Persian are one group, are one empire, and Babylon kingdom is going to be given to the Medes and the Persians. All right. Keep going. Now, matter of fact, you go right there. You go right there. So I just wanted to bring that out, okay? Because people say, is America versus Persia, is this Bible prophecy? Because it said he would stir up the Medes. But what about the Persians? It's the same thing. They did the same thing. All right. Now, do we have to talk about who was Babylon? We should know who was Babylon. We should know. But the question I want to ask the panel, all right, now, the war, what does this mean? You know, the war was going on right now. What does this mean for us as the children of Israel? All right. The floor is open. Whoever want to go, raise their hand first so we can bring everybody in, respectfully. Nobody? It's 15 participants on here. Y'all don't have anything to say. Like the war, what's going on right now? What does it mean, and what does it mean for us as the children of Israel? All right. Brother Victor, you can go out. I see you.
Hey, shalom, Mishpah. Hey, my bad. I'm driving, but I'm paying attention. I don't know if y'all can hear me well or not.
I can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you.
What this word is actually doing, it should be bringing us to a one-mindedness. What do I mean by that? I mean that it's a call to action. We're seeing prophecy being played out before our eyes. Now, it's up to us, right? As the kingdom is coming up, as Yaakov is rising and Edom is falling, we should be doing our utmost best to still use these outlets that Edom has to transport information, transport supplies, transport, like for what we're doing right now, which is agricultural focused seed. We should be plentiful in shipping seeds out to those who are farming. We should be bountiful in mercy and grace to those who are outside of the promised land and then we should be mindful of the threats that these lands are receiving, because at the end of the day, we're all receiving these threats. It's not just these people. Remember, everything that happens in Babylon, in Babylonia, in Persia, it will affect everybody, whether we accept it or not. No matter where we're at, we know that these powers are powers of the earth. They are the kings of the earth. Right now, we're seeing them divided and fighting, but we know that Persia, at the end of the day, is going to overtake Babylonia. This is not, it's going to last for a little while. It's going to be a time, but we need to be ready for that time. May it be readiness in wisdom, readiness in logistics, readiness in supplies, readiness in whichever shape or form. But we need to ensure that we continue to build, coexist, and also supply those that need, these items. And I say this in haste because, like myself, as you know, Palala, I also farm. And, through these sessions, I've come to understand that there's certain type of logistics available in that land that's not available anywhere else, just because the type of land that it is. So we need to be mindful, not just logistically, spiritually, but also physically of where we're at. This is not going to stop. This is just the beginning of sorrows, and we're seeing it today. And I say today because yesterday was not as impactful as it is today. And as days progress, things will continue to get worse. And I say that because when in the chat, I was putting up that gas prices went up. Right now, gas prices went up almost 25 cents from since I said it. We're at almost $1.20 per liter on the island. And I know some places are almost $9 a gallon. That's crazy. So we need to be mindful of where we're putting our energy. We need to be mindful of how we're engaging. And most importantly, we need to be mindful of how we move forward. Because energy, as y'all know, is what moves the internet, intranet, and even logistics that we have available today. So I would call us to at least I guess press the wrong button. But what I'm getting at is we gotta get ready. Like we've been getting ready these last few months. We've been discussing a lot of different topics, but now is where we put the pedal to the metal. So let's definitely keep each other prayed up, each other covered, but most importantly is keep pushing this forward because time is now, and it's not time to falter or be weak. It's time to show our strength, show our unity, and most importantly, show performance towards what we've been working on. So Torah for the time, I yield.
Now, all praise to the Most High, bro. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate that. Most definitely, and I just want to put this out there. On March the 21st, 1935, Persia officially changed their name to Iran. All right. So, and I asked this question. I asked it again to the panel, the war and what's going on right now. What does this mean for us as the children of Israel? All right. Now, I'm going to play this video real quick. And I'm going to play like 3 minutes of it. Okay. And then I want people to chime in before we move on to those two questions that I posed. I'm gonna pose to everybody. All right, but definitely, let's check this out real quick. Let's look at this real quick.
The war on Iran has sparked global concerns. Oil prices are up, Gulf nations are facing attacks, and end of war remains uncertain. Where does the war on Iran stand as we move beyond 2 weeks of constant attacks and counterattacks? Here's a report.
The war has entered its third week. Pentagon and Israeli forces say they have targeted and dismantled over 15,000 Iranian targets. Iran, not ready to surrender, is using ballistic missiles, weighing heavy as 2 tons, putting Gulf region in the crosshairs, not relenting. U.S. claims to have complete control over Iranian skies while the Strait of Hormuz waters are still being dominated by Iran.
I just created a $47 ebook in 3 minutes flat using AI. Time me while I do it again. Already in Designer, interface is loading.
Tehran is now focusing on sustained military strikes. The volume of attacks have came down, but the threat of fresh attacks looms continuously. Iran is increasingly relying on cluster bombs to attack Israel. These munitions are difficult to intercept as the missile ejects smaller submunitions before hitting the ground. The war so far has been focused on aerial and naval assaults, causing damage across Gulf countries. Iran's new leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, says Gulf nation must shut U.S. bases or be ready to face attacks. Since the beginning of war, Bahrain has intercepted 125 missiles and 203 drones. UAE has intercepted over 294 ballistic missiles and 1,600 drones. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, along with Kuwait, Oman, and Iraq are also facing daily attacks. In the latest, Iran has targeted U.S. base in Saudi Arabia's Al-Kharj. UAE's Fujairah oil facility also caught fire, and loud explosions were heard in Bahrain's Manama. Gulf nations are faced with a difficult choice: loose out on American security umbrella or keep catching Iranian missiles and drones. They have so far remained cautious in joining offense against Iran, but Tehran vows it has ample evidence to prove that U.S. bases in Gulf are being used by U.S. to conduct attacks. The latest Iranian salvo comes after U.S. forces hit Iran's Karg Island, which is a key artery of Iran's oil trade. Iran claims that attack on Karg was carried out from UAE, and it will further escalate the scope of retaliation. Iran says it will hit any energy infrastructure in the region which belongs to any American company. This is not the first time Iran has vowed a tat-for-tat action. It threatened to hit U.S. banks in the Gulf after strikes hit its banking facility in Tehran. As war continues to rage, the battle of words is also intensifying. Iran's Supreme National Security Council, Secretary Ali Larijani, has opened a fresh front on social media after Pentagon chief labeled Iranian leaders as rats. Larijani has accused a 9/11-like plot being planned by what he called remnants of Epstein's team. Diplomatic efforts to script end of this war also remain sketchy. Donald Trump says Iran is ready to make a deal, but the deal is not the one that he would be ready to accept. Iran's foreign minister
All right, okay. So now going back to this question, and then I'm gonna just see who wants to chime in with this. Then we're gonna move on. So the war, we see gas is rising. We see oil. Oil is at 100 a barrel. Between 98 and 100 a barrel. My estimate is that by the end of this month, it's gonna be about 110, 115. Because Iran is not letting up. They're not letting up. So my question is to the panel again, like, the war, what does this mean, for us as children of Israel? And what does it mean for Babylon? What does it mean for America also? So I asked that question out there for y'all.
I apologize for being late. This is Yahya. You know the president is dead, right? The president of Israel is dead, Netanyahu. You know that, right?
I don't know. You can't confirm that, but I heard about it. I heard about that. But yeah, I heard that's, definitely heard. But let me ask you, do you want to chime in about, what does this mean when it comes about the children of Israel? What does this war mean towards us when it comes to the children of Israel?
It's going to bring famine everywhere. When the Most High comes for judgment or revenge, it's going to be famine for everybody. Not for everybody, but not for the chosen, but for all our enemies. That's the bottom line.
All right. Definitely, man. But yeah, anybody else want to chime in before I go to these questions? Just these two questions.
Peace and blessings, family.
Shalom.
It just reaffirms for me, dear brother and family, that this is not going to be a religious redemption. It's not going to be a new religious kingdom. We've had Torah, we've had scriptures, we've had scrolls for years and years, and we haven't been able to resolve any of the world's issues through religion, not just Hebrew, Judaism, Islam, or any of them. So the redemption of the Most High's people will not be religious. It's affecting all of us. There's other things that I could say, but I just wanted to, for me personally, it's just not going to be religious, family. And I'm going to rest right there at this time. Peace and blessings.
No, most definitely. Yeah, religion is not going to get us there. Now you can go ahead.
Hold on, I'm trying to, all right, because I was the main one talking about the camera, so I gotta put the camera on. What's going on right now between Israel, Iran, and America, this is definitely biblical, and it's definitely something that is recorded within the scriptures in multiple places, such as, matter of fact, one of the scriptures you went to, which is Isaiah chapter 17. Also, we can read about it in books like 2nd Esdras chapter 15, when you talk about the Carmanians. And if you don't mind, I actually want to read something. What's going on right now should put us in the mind frame of preparation. And it should also put us in the mind frame to go back and read some of those scriptures when our forefathers was going through the very same type of ordeals. Maybe not to this magnitude, because this is going to be the climax of everything. You know what I'm saying? This is leading up to the battle of Armageddon, leading up to the end. But we do have scripture that we can use as a form of a template to see what was it that our forefathers did to prepare. And if you don't mind, I want to read something real quick.
Yeah, you got it. Mm-hmm.
All right, so first I'm gonna go to Second Esdras chapter 15, and I'm gonna start at verse 24. Right? Because even though what's going on right now in the physical between these different nations, technically speaking, has nothing to do with us. At the same time, spiritually speaking, it has everything to do with us. We know first and foremost that the Most High is the controller of everything. He's the foreseer of everything. He has foreknowledge over everything. We also understand that just like according to Daniel, you have spiritual principalities that fight amongst one another, right? So we at Second Esdras chapter 15, verse 24. It says, woe to them that sin and keep not my commandments, saith the Most High. So through this war, you are going to have those people that get entangled up, that are quote unquote Israelites, simply because some of these people will be sinners, right? It says, I will not spare them. Go your way, ye children, from the power. Defile not my sanctuary. For the Lord knoweth all them that sin against him, and therefore delivereth he them unto death and destruction. One thing that we know according to the scriptures, it says, I've never seen the righteous forsaken. So what we have to hold near and dear to us and key is the Most High's law, statutes, commandments, so that we can be justified and that we can be righteous in these last days and times. It says, for now are the plagues come upon the whole earth, and ye shall remain in them. For God shall not deliver you, because ye have sinned against him. Behold, an horrible vision and the appearance thereof from the east, where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, many chariots, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon earth, that all they which hear them may fear and tremble. Now, we know in modern times, people not going to war with chariots, but this is what the prophet most likely Esdras would have seen in ancient times, right? Chariots representing warfare. It says also the Carmanians, which is another name for the Persians or the Medes, raging in wrath shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they come and join battle with them. So this is talking about the Iranians going to war with Arabians. Now, Arabia just means mangled people. So technically speaking, this could be talking about America, Israel. We also know that it was a bomb, if I'm not mistaken, that hit an oil field in Arabia, and it was blamed on Iran. But Iran said, hey, we didn't drop that particular bomb. So it looked like it's something going on that's being publicized to try to bring Arabia into this war to go against Iran. Right? It says, and shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. The land of the Assyrians, that's northern Iraq. And we see a lot going on between Iraq, America, and Iran right now. It says also the Carmanians raging. No, I read that part right. Verse 31. And then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature. And if they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in great power to persecute them, then these shall be troubled, bled, and keep silent through their power, and shall flee. So when I read this scripture, what it's looking like so far is that something's going to happen to where Iran is going to be defeated in the battle, right? But we know that according to the scriptures, they're going to win the war. From what I'm hearing, of course, we know they took out, what is it called? The Ayatollah of Iran, which made this a religious war because he's not just the Ayatollah over Iran, he's also over a few other Muslim or Islamic countries. That was a big problem when they did that. That's when they lost the war. Before they even won the battle, America lost the war, if that makes sense. It says, and from the land of the Assyrians shall the enemy besiege them and consume some of them, and in their hosts shall be fear and dread and strife among their kings. Verse 34, behold, clouds from the east and from the north unto the south, and they are very horrible to look upon, full of wrath and storm. Now, I'm not going to keep reading because I don't want to take up too much time. I know there's other people on the panel that want to speak, but this is talking about nuclear destruction. That's why I was talking about clouds. Now is the time for us to prepare more so now than ever. Now is the time for us to begin to definitely deal with the agricultural aspect of land and farming, and making a safe place for our people to be able to flee to. Yeah, I say the word flee because in Jeremiah it says flee from the land of the north. To flee or to escape to, right? These different lands, these different locales. So we have to pull our resources together and begin to make safe havens for our people. Now is the time to read scriptures like Isaiah chapter 11, where it gives you safe havens. Now is the time to read Jeremiah chapter 50 and Jeremiah chapter 51, when it says the children of Judah and Israel are oppressed together. And it talks about how in the last days, they are to say, come, let us serve the Most High. They are to go towards the east, and they are also to remember the land of Zion and ask the way to Zion. And that's it. But first and foremost, let me say this, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. First and foremost, for those people that can't leave and can't get to specific areas, the most important thing, and I read it earlier, it said that the Most High is going to judge those that are sinners. So the most important thing we can do, preparation-wise, is to get our houses in order and become righteous with the Most High.
Most definitely, most definitely. And I wanted to, the reason why I went into the information about the Medes in Persia is because even with the war going on, a lot of our people, they're not looking at the news still. They may hear what's going on, but they're not looking at the news. They're not understanding what's really going on. They're not understanding how serious this thing can get if it keeps going. They don't understand the ripple effects that's going to happen in the world totality, if this thing keeps going, which according to Iran, they said that they're gonna be the ones to determine when the war ends, and we have to understand that the propaganda that's out here when it comes to media. All right, and speaking about propaganda, it's confirmed that Netanyahu, he's alive. He was getting a latte. He's getting a latte. And even when it comes to this war, we got to understand the propaganda when it comes to the media out here. You got to be very careful on where you're getting your information at, because both sides are trying to, push a certain agenda at the same time. But then at the same time, you got other things, people saying other things like, oh, the new Ayatollah, well, Kamahani's son, he's injured because he, we don't know if he's alive or not. He never showed his face and all this stuff. What we need to look at is what's going on. What we need to understand that it's missiles flying around, and that is very, very, very true. Who is Saint King? Let me put you on mute real quick, bro. But yeah. But the thing is, we need to look at what we can verify and things that we can confirm, and that's not just to say, because in this time right now, we're going to have a lot of false, propaganda and a lot of things coming out, a lot of false information, a lot of propaganda coming out, but most definitely, but let me ask this question, since we talk about getting our house in order. So let me go to the questions, to these discussion questions, and it is, we have a responsibility to save ourselves as a nation. We see what's going on in the world right now. We see, and it's up to us, to take that initiatives and build our new world. All right, it's up to us to do that. So we have a responsibility. While these nations is fighting, we're going to be building. We have a responsibility. So from the panel perspectives, what are the key actions, or structures or guiding principles we must put in place to fulfill the destiny and secure our future as a people? You know, can y'all can people on this platform, on this panel, elaborate to the people? You know, we have this platform so we can elaborate to the people, so we can be able to recruit other Hebrew Israelites to come into this, so we can, because we need more laborers. We need more laborers. You know, the laborers are few. You know, but the harvest is plenty. So let me ask the question again. We have a responsibility, all right, to save ourselves as a nation, all right. So what are the key actions or structures and guiding principles we must put in place to fulfill this destiny, to secure our future as a people? Taza, like I see you had your hand raised. All right, did you want to go?
Shalom to the panel. Shalom to the people. Barakatah to you all. One thing that I want to, say in regard to everything that's happening is we can't just be hearers of the word. We have to be doers of the word. We can't just be talkers. We have to be doers. When we have to be steadfast. We have to be intentional. We have to be responsible, accountable for ourselves and each other. We have to be action-based at this point. No matter what phase of our structuring we're in, we have to be about that action. I can't say that enough. You know, we're in a time where people just want to look good doing things, and they want to look like they're doing things. And as a coalition, I'm here to say that that's not what we're here to do. We're here to put that work in. We're here to gather our people, build infrastructures, economically, spiritually, communities. We're here to work with those who want to work with us. And that's what it's going to take. I think that it's important to build where we have likeness at, and not be so concerned about the things that divide us, but the things that tie us together. These are very trying times that we're in, and we have to raise our awareness. We have to be more compassionate. We have to, I was talking to my children, and I told them that, we have to self-evaluate before we look at what anybody else is doing. What is the Most High trying to do in me? And then as a collective, we're able to understand what he's trying to do with us. So it starts with self. There is one scripture that I want to go into that's pertaining to the things that are happening. Could y'all bear with me 1 second?
Yeah, no doubt. Now do your thing. Do your thing.
I
now,
just
what you
got.
saying? Yeah, do your thing. Now get it real quick.
Yeah, I just got to a situation where I'm sitting still. So bear with me 1 second.
Now get it real quick. Yeah, but now what you saying? You know what I'm saying? Definitely right on. Like it's and that's the problem with a lot of Hebrew Israelites in the States. We it's a lot of organizations in the States. A lot of resources that they have, and then they see what's going on. They looking at the news just like we looking at the news. They may not be focused on the things that we're focused on, but they have a lot of resources and things like that. We need to, shake the minds of our brothers and sisters, that's out there in the States within these organizations, and shake their minds like, look, like snap out of it. Even if sometimes we may have to spiritually slap them, you know what I'm saying, to get them to slap, the snap out of it, because what we in right now is serious. It gets no serious than this. You know what I'm saying? It gets no serious than this. At any time right now, our alarm can go off and Saul Madiel and Amalia gotta go. You know what I'm saying?
And at any time, and you know what? Like we need to recognize it ain't one place that's safe. The whole earth is unsafe. As long as these people are in charge, the entire earth, the circumference thereof, is not safe. This is not a safe time. This is not a safe nation, government that's ruling. It say when the wicked rule, the people mourn. The earth is in mourning right now. You know, and it's going to be until this thing is over with. So, you know, the scripture I wanted to get into from the Apocrypha is 2nd Esdras chapter 6. And I'm gonna read a few verses. And it goes, and he said unto me in the beginning, when the earth was made. Now listen very carefully, because this shows you the Most High is already setting the stage for everything that we're going through. All we got to do is get through it and remain pure and become, you know, fire, it destroys and it also purifies. So we need to be purified by this fire, by this trial by fire. And you know, not be the stubble that's gonna get burnt. But anyway, verse it says, and he said unto me in the beginning, when the earth was made, before the borders of the world stood, or even the winds blew, before it thundered and lightened, or ever the foundations of paradise were laid, before the fair flowers were seen, or ever the movable powers were established, before the innumerable multitude of angels were gathered together, or even the heights of the air were lifted up, before the measures of the firmament were named, or even the chimneys in Zion were hot, and earth, the present day, were sought out, and or ever the inventions of them that now sin were turned, before they were sealed that have gathered faith for a treasure. Then did I consider these things, and they all were made through me alone, and through none other. By me also they shall be ended, and by none other. Then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times? And when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that follows? And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows. The hand of man is betwixt the heel and the hand. Other question, Esdras, asked thou not. So with that being said, it's telling us that there will be no intermission. There will be no transitionary period. This is going to go from mourning to glory. It's going to go from the evil regime to the righteous regime, with nothing in between. There's nothing between the hand and the heel. It's going to go from Esau to Jacob, and Jacob is Israel, Yasha'Allah. So let's, you know, right now, when I say Kwam Yasharallah, that means rise, Israel, and that's what we're doing. We're rising. We were confused in this world. We are not supposed to be awake. We're not supposed to even know we're Israel. They didn't give us any tools to know who we are as a nation. So what we're doing right now, we're a miracle. This whole entire fact that we know we're Israel, that our brethren are in Israel, understanding they were Israel. When Martin Luther King said he's seen the mountaintop, they went to the mountaintop. All of these things are miracles. And I praise the Most High, because we're not even supposed to understand this stuff. And we got a clear vision of what's going on and what's to come. And I yield with that.
Right on, Aki. Right on, my brother. But yeah, man, for sure. For sure. And I just want to bring this back up again. Remember the writings on the wall. All right. You know, we're the Daniels, you know, in our time right now. Remember the writings on the wall. And then since you mentioning that it's no transition, you know, from Esau kingdom to our kingdom, you know, it's going, you know, pretty much slide right, you know, into our kingdom. But if that's going to happen that way, then we have to be building now. You know, we have to be building now, you know, and all because we reading scriptures. Don't get it twisted. We're building. Don't get it twisted. So people need to come with their farming budgets, right? These people need to put in these things, so we can move forward with these things. Because while we moving forward, and if you're not moving forward while we're moving forward, then you just gonna get left. Because that's just how it is. And I've seen that plenty of times. I work with a lot of people, throughout my 11 years of being in this Hebrew Israelite walk, 11, 12 years being in this Hebrew Israelite walk. And I see people, the more dedicated you is with doing the work, doing action with it, and people who's not really with it, doing action with it, they seem to just, you keep progressing, and they just seem to just, you see them in your rearview mirror. So we have to put that in. But let me ask this question again to the panel. We have a responsibility to save ourselves as a nation. All right. So what are the key actions and structures or in guiding principles we must put in place to fulfill this destiny and secure our future as a people? We see the writing on the wall. Right. What do we supposed to do to secure our future as a people? And now you can go out. Go ahead, bro.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead real quick. I got some key points I want to hit. So we definitely know that we can't just talk about. Oh, okay, yeah, I forgot, my bad. Hold on. All right, it ain't working. Can y'all see me?
Yeah, I can see y'all. Yeah.
All right. Yes, what I was saying was we definitely know that it's more than just about, reading the scripture like you said. It's about actually making a consolidated effort to put some things in action, to build some institutions, to get some land, to have a sort of autonomy in this world construct as we see it today until our kingdom comes, right? With that being said, I want to go to James chapter 2, right? Because a lot of people think all you need is faith. All you have to do is believe. And that's how, we save ourselves as a nation. But I never seen the Most High bless somebody who didn't put forth their foot first, right? The Most High bless those or help those that also help themselves, right? The covenant, for example, a contractual agreement, we have to hold up our end of the bargain in order to be protected and blessed by the Most High, which means we have to do something, and then in return, he'll do something. He'll keep up his end of the bargain as well, right? So let's go to James chapter 2, verse 14. It says, "What doth it profit, my brethren, though a man may say he had faith and have not works? Can faith save him? If a brother or sister be naked or destitute of daily food, and one of you say unto them, Depart in peace, be ye warmed and filled, notwithstanding ye give them not those things which are needful to the body, what doth it profit?" So we have to be willing to not just pray for one another, but to actually pull our resources together and do for one another, right? It says, "Even so faith, if it have not works, is dead, being alone." So we're not going to get anywhere based off of just talking, based off of just reading, based off of just having faith, right? We got to have works to go along with the faith. The same way that love is an emotional word, but is also an action word, and that's the proof. That's the real love, is the action. It's the same way with faith. Faith is an emotion, but it is also an action. And the way you show forth that action is by committing the works that's tagged along with that emotion, which is called faith. Let me keep reading. It says, "Yea, a man may say, Thou hast faith, and I have works. Show me thy faith without thy works, and I will show thee my faith by my works." So we have to have works amongst one another. We need to learn one another. We need to know one another's habits. We need to be able to get along with one another. We need to have conflicts with one another. We need to get to know the ins and outs of our community. And we need to be able to work together towards one righteous goal, which is establishing the kingdom of the Most High, right? We keep going. Thou believest that there is one God, thou doest well. The devils also believe and tremble. But wilt thou know, O vain man, that faith without works is dead? So once again, look at the devils, right? Miserable, but they believe in God. And if we don't establish works, where we will be just like them, miserable, even though we have faith. So we cannot lack in works. This is something that you got to put your best foot forward. I got some other stuff I want to read real quick, if you don't mind. Isaiah 1:16. Wash you, make you clean. Put away the evil of your doings from before my eyes. Cease to do evil. Learn to do well. Seek judgment. These are the things we need to be doing, seeking judgment. Don't be a yes man. If you see somebody doing wrong, you confront it. You see somebody doing wrong to another brother or sister, you confront it, right? It says relieve the oppressed. These things we could be doing, feeding the poor, feeding the homeless. It says judge the fatherless. This means, being around orphans and things like that. It says plead for the widow. Make sure the widows have the things that they need in order to be able to sustain themselves. So these are different type of ministries that need to be started, right? It says, come now and let us reason together, saith the Most High. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they shall be as wool. If ye be willing and obedient, ye shall eat the good of the land. So this is how we are returned to the land, and the land will flourish if we be willing and obedient, right? I'm gonna keep going. Unless somebody want to go, I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah, I see. Sorry, Mario got his hand.
Oh, okay.
Hand,
all right, I'm gonna stop.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely did. Hey, look, I definitely did what you're saying, bro. Because this platform, this is not something we just, yeah, we going live right here and putting this information out so we can recruit other Hebrew Israelites. But behind the scenes, we're organizing and strategizing and executing. You know what I'm saying? So, and what you're saying is important.
I wanted to know before Saul Mario go, only by his permission, can I go to one more scripture after Palau is done talking?
Go ahead, bro. I was getting ready to say that anyway.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Palau.
Do your thing. I'll do your thing.
All right, this is another thing. Jeremiah 7:22 through 23. It says, hold on, let me make sure. It says, for I spake not unto your fathers, nor commanded them in the day that I brought them out of the land of Egypt concerning burnt offerings and sacrifices. But this thing commanded I them, saying, obey my voice, and I will be your God, and ye shall be my people, and walk ye in all the ways that I have commanded you, that it may be well with you. So we have to understand, we have to listen and obey the voice of the Most High. Micah 6:7 through 8. It says, will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams, or with 10,000s of rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? So we have to understand, we're not waiting for, I know, some of us believe that the sacrificial system is going to be set back up. But either way, one thing everybody agree on, I don't know no Hebrew that don't agree on this, is that right now we're not dealing with sacrifice. So it's things that we can do and utilize right now that will help bring this kingdom forward. And it's in verse 7. It says, verse 8, it says, he hath showed thee, O man, what is good, and what doth the Lord require of thee, but to do justly, to do just to one another, to judge righteously, right? It says, and to love mercy, have mercy upon one another, and to walk humbly with thy God. So these are some of the things that we can easily initiate amongst our community and amongst brothers and sisters that's not in our community to help the work flourish and to bring the kingdom of the Most High here, along with, of course, having works along with the faith. But that's it.
Right on, bro. Right on. Definitely. Somebody, you got it. Yeah, it's on you.
כל כבוד ליהושע בנו נסיך השלום בן עמי המשיח נסיכים שרים עטרים. Hasidim family, shalom aleichem. Wow, it's good to be back in the mix. I've been absent for a minute. I even had to spend yesterday and today reviewing the many messages that had backed up in the two groups that I'm part of with you in the HISCUNC groups. I was part of I was involved with a conference of what's called the International Society for the Study of African Judaism. It was being held in Paris. It was the 9th and the 10th. And I was booked to go. And the flights obviously were canceled, so I wasn't able to attend in person, but I was there. I did present and monitor the conference in virtually. And, I appreciate, how do you pronounce your name, brother? Inayan? Inayan? How do you pronounce that name?
Yes, that's correct.
Which one? Inayan?
Inayan.
One more time.
Most people have a hard time pronouncing it, so I just let them say it how they want to say it.
No, I don't want to do that. I don't
actually,
want to
actually
come up with some other meaning or something.
The correct way actually would be anav.
Anav. Oh, serious.
Humble or meek.
Humility. Okay. Anavia, Naviel. Okay, got you. That's the root. Tov, Toda. I appreciate, just hearing the brethren and teachers and elders interpret and articulate. And there's so much. And I was, when Palal just said something about his 12 years in the way, in the knowledge, on the path, and I said, wow, let me count mine up. And I was like, wow, could that be real? And it was in 1975 in Detroit when I came into awareness of my being of Hebraic ancestry. So I'm in my 50th year, which is, it's awesome. And what really makes it awesome is that when you realize all the things that you still don't know, so that keeps you like my brother, humble. So I just wanted to say, at another time, I will maybe give you some blow by blow of what occurred in the conference. And believe you me, when you're engaging these anthropologists and historians and archaeologists in this field of African Judaism and African Hebrews, African Hebrew Israelites, Black Jews, et cetera, they are among the chief deceivers and the chief liars. And often they are the ones that governments and institutions call upon for expert testimony and expert witnesses, in certain cases. But I, as I usually do, I went for the juggler. I went hard. But let me tell you, let me just synopsize that portion, and we can talk about. I want to talk about some other things, but I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, have watched the Tucker Carlson interview of Ambassador Huckabee, and I assure you that the gatekeepers of Judaism and of Israel are more concerned about those missiles and bombs that Tucker Carlson was dropping than they are about anything coming out of Iran. And who would believe the report? Because just a few years ago, Tucker Carlson was one of the chief stars of the Fox and Friends. You know, he and Huckabee were together on Fox, you know, and he would be one of the last people that you would think would be taking this tack with Huckabee and asking those pointed, very pointed questions. And obviously he did his homework. And if you haven't seen the video, he attributes that to an interview or a conversation he was having with Ye. You know, Kanye dropped something on him some years back. And obviously it took root and caused him to investigate. And so who would believe the report? Who would think that what is going on now would have been going on just a few months ago even? So it's just awesome to look at this converging, the convergences of all of these different scriptures. I've never, in my 50 years in this awareness, I've never seen such a convergence of all the necessary pieces that speak to this being those final days. I would say, however, that it is a transition, and I would use as my, you know, and I'm glad you brought that up, Tazalak, because I had that scripture in my head about Jacob and Esau, those, you know, the beginning and the end. I had that in my mind. I knew I had read it somewhere in the Apocrypha, but I couldn't find it. And so that was very helpful for me. But in Daniel 2:44, after it talks about the beast, and you get all the way down to the feet and the toes, and the mixed iron and mixed clay, the mixed Roman Empire, the mixed Roman system, and this new form of something that is weak, partly strong, can't bind together. The European Union, as we've talked about it, European Economic Community, now the European Union, which would include NATO, would include America. All of that beast, that great beast, is sitting on that weak foundation. And when it gets to the 44th verse, it says, and in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up himself a kingdom, which shall never be destroyed. So the coming of the kingdom, the second word there is very important. And it's maybe the most important for us to draw the context from. And in the days of these kings, not after, but in the same time as you see those kings, those 10 toes, you know, that Yah would set his kingdom up, which of course, Yeshua said, it'd be like a mustard seed. It's going to start off small. So that is the confirmation that there is a transition. Now, how much time is involved in that, we don't know, because indeed, as Palal said, you know, in reading that handwriting on the wall, the days are numbered. There's an expiration date. So there's an expiration date, and there's an expiration date that applies to us. And this gets to the question that Palal's asking: what is it that we should be doing? Because in Daniel, when it talks about the 70th week, you know, when it starts giving you those days, and they're very specific, and that's another whole class. That's another class. Ben-Ami taught us thoroughly on this idea of the 70th week. But, you know, when you get to you get to those last few days, we had a certain amount of time to put an end to iniquity in our midst. And once you go beyond that, again, we have an expiration date too, or we who aren't or haven't made the transition into that righteousness. And so, you know, you get a period of grace, you know, but as Ben-Ami taught us, grace will find you in ignorance, but it won't leave you there. So being taught truth, having your eyes opened, you know, and being made aware of your predicament and your surroundings and your prophetic chastisement, and you know, that is the grace. But then there's, as Brother Nav Nayan, that you also made a comment about you know, this relationship with the Holy One of Israel being conditional and transactional. It is a conditional relationship. That's why you read, if you do thus and thus, then I will thus and thus. You know, that's conditional. You know, transactional. Hey, I've got this obligation. I'm gonna meet it, and I expect you to, you know, to meet yours in return. So that's very important for us. I'm happy to hear him mention that love, you know, not just the emotion, but the verb form. Ben-Ami gave us a definition for love. Love is, and it's simple, doing the right thing to and for one another. Selah. You know, and that covers a multitude of things, but it's a verb. It's something that we have to do. And again, at a future point, Nayan, you mentioned about faith. And faith, you know, Ben-Ami did a whole teaching in the beginning of his book, Everlasting Life, where he was speaking about faith. And he broke it down using the root of the word, Emunah, all the way to Oman, and even, what is the word for citizenship? No, it's IMM. Anyway, I've been away from it too long, but it's something that we could all review and share with the family here. So let me take a look at some of my notes, and then I'll pass on the mic here. Oh, by the way, yeah, there's no telling. I was looking at some of these things about Bibi, and some of this stuff looked quote unquote reputable. That he had been targeted, that Iran had hit the control apparatus for the country, and Bibi was gone, and X numbers of generals were gone, and what have you. There's a lot of misinformation out here right now, and we have to be careful that we're not falling victim to it, and that we don't be so quick to share it until we verify it. Because other than that, we get caught up in what the scripture called tale bearing, because some of that can be actually very dangerous for us, can be dangerous for anybody to be caught up in that cycle. And so AI has really, man, it has really tore up the field. You don't know what to believe or who to believe anymore. You couldn't trust any of these players beforehand. And now, you know, as they say, seeing is believing. Not anymore. Not anymore. So we have to be very careful. Deception, AI is more than a tool. AI is, it has taken deception to a new level, and we have to be very careful with that. If it looks like some of these things that they're maintaining, I'll let you know. I'll let you know what I'm seeing here on the ground here. What Brother Ben David's seeing up in Tel Aviv. I mean, yeah, there are some serious things going on here, but it hasn't gotten that deep yet, I don't think. But I'll be the first one to let you know if I'm wrong. And time will tell, won't it? Unless they've mastered these android robots and what have you, who knows? I wanted to say, you know, relative to the question in your on the poster, Palau. You know, I used to be a lifeguard in my teens. I was a lifeguard in DC. And one of the principles that they taught you was if you didn't have to get in the water, don't get in the water. Throw a rope, extend an arm, grab a branch. If you're in one of those, if you're in an outdoor setting, you know, I used to be in a DC public pool. It was like literally like a bathtub, because we literally had to scrub the ring off the tub and clean the bottom sometimes. I kept a sinus infection because of it. But nevertheless, you know, the principles were that you stay on your solid ground. And I'm saying that to say that with all of what's going on with the Strait of Hormuz and what have you, and the choke points and this and that, you want to know what a choke point is? If the Strait of Hormuz is a choke point, come to the west a little bit. And what will happen when Egypt flares up? If the Muslim Brotherhood overruns the Egyptian authorities, they're already having economic problems and the people aren't happy. That could easily flip. And imagine the Suez Canal. You think they're worried about ships getting back and forth in the Strait of Hormuz? In the Suez Canal, only one can get through at a time. So this is a very, very serious matter. But I'm reminded of the meme or whatever, you know, the little witty words of wisdom. It said, bless me to know the things I can control and the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, something to that effect. And what can we tangibly do about what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz? And the answer is literally nothing, unless we're part of that armada that's sitting out there. And we know that we have to really know that Yah is running this show, and that everything therefore is prophetically correct, that it's unfolding the way that it should. And therefore, going back to that relationship, if you thus and thus and thus, and the if and the then is, if you are obedient, then I'll protect you. That's in essence one of the fundamentals of this relationship. And so when the word came out that all Americans needed to head for the hills and get out the country, and they hadn't even made any plans for them and started organizing buses. The ambassador didn't know what the plan was. They didn't have a plan when everything went south. So they organized some buses to get down to Taba, to the Egyptian border, and to get out to Sharm el Sheikh and fly out from there. But none of us considered that. We're home. This is where are we gonna go? Back to Babylon, back to Chicago, back to DC, back to wherever, you know, the places that we've come from there. No, we're way beyond that. You know, we're strong in our faith that we're in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing, and that is going to be the formula that protects us and helps us along this way. Do we have all clarity and mapped? No, we don't. You know, the way to redemption and salvation is not always charted for those who even know the way. So, but we get our upgrades as we go, and the upgrades come from all quarters. It could be one of you that says something and sparks, wow, never thought about. That's why I was listening keenly to those other scriptures that were being mentioned as we started this session, and made note, and going to be reviewing them and passing them on to our scholars so that we can make sure multitude of counsel, multitude of wisdom. So give me a moment here. Again, Apocrypha, Carmonians raging in wrath. They have given the Iranians all reason to be raging in wrath. You know, you killed their spiritual leader, not just the Arabians, not just the Iranians, rather, but all of those Muslims around the world that identify as Shiites, raging in wrath. They definitely got a reason. You killed the father. You injured the son. You killed his wife and child. You killed 160 some girls in a school, then lied about it. Raging in wrath. Raging in wrath. So, you know, I think I've covered what I want to cover. I might want to come back a little bit.
And sorry, yeah.
Some
Let me. Can I ask you a
Dr.
question?
Sean.
Can I ask you a question before you
Sure.
pass the mic?
Sure.
I want to ask you two questions, but the first question I'm gonna ask you, and then the second question is gonna be the question that's transition into the second question, because I want to be able to wrap this up, and I'm gonna see if a couple brothers want to actually answer the second question. But the first question I want to ask you, since you know you in the morning, I got you on here. You know you've been, you know, I got you on here right now. You know you in the Mona. You know, because this is gonna be going out, putting this out and sharing this. You know, because a lot of people within the Hebrew Israelite community, you know, they have a lot of, you know, questions when it comes to, and a lot of false information when it comes to what's taking place when it comes to, you know, the Mona being, you know, targeted, you know, and certain things like that. But I want you to elaborate to the people, you know, like how much activity does the Mona get compared to Central and up north? Kind of give them a layout, you know.
I often say this, and I often have to stay close to some wood, to knock on wood, as they say, that we get a very, very small fraction of the action. Demona, you know, I had an illustration. I don't have it handy with me, and it gives you a map of the land of Israel, and it gives you the points at which, you know, missiles had fallen. This was during the first wave a few months back, and the map was so covered with these red dots that the only part of the map that you could actually read was Demona, because all the activity was in other areas. And like, you know, it had trickled down that we had actually 2 full days and no alerts. You get an alert on your phone that you know that missiles have been launched. And then, you know, when you get that alert, you know to just be ready. You know, start moving if you're slow, if your mobility is challenged, if you're coming from a far distance, be heading in that direction. Maybe a few minutes later, 5 to 10 minutes later, not even that long, I would say between 3 and 7 minutes, a siren will sound. If the missiles are determined to possibly fall in your area, or the shrapnel, if the interceptors hit them above us, then the shrapnel will come down on top of us. And so either of those scenarios, and we are actually in the flight path between Iran and Beersheba, Iran and Israel's largest Air Force base, which is only maybe, 20 kilometers, if that, maybe 15 kilometers away from us. So when those missiles come over our heads and they've not sounded the siren for us, we can hear them when they land 10, 15 kilometers to the other side, to the west of us. And we've heard some very, very, very heavy armaments landing. So it's serious. We don't take it lightly, even though, you know, we've had dozens of alerts, and the tendency of many is that you get used to it. Well, that's dangerous. You know, you don't want to drop your guard, you know, at a time like this. You know, you want to, the boy who cried wolf, right? But these technologies, hey, you know, they're what they are, but that's not where our hope lies. Our hope, our faith is in Yahweh, and ultimately it is He that protects us. So, you know, we have to balance. We don't tempt Yah. Let's put it like that. We go to the designated places. We have our security apparatus, our minister of security ministry, our security captains, both female and male, male and female security captains. Whatever the situations are, they guide us. When the rest of the area gets an all clear, we wait for our captains to give us the all clear. You know, I mean, that's the respect that we give them. That's the respect of our own institutions and what have you. So, but Damona is, on one level, strategically, as far as military, it's probably the most protected area in the country. And that's because of the nuclear reactor that's 12 kilometers to our east. You know, there are some US cities that are closer to nuclear plants than we are. And given what the world knows or thinks they know about the Damona nuclear reactor, who knows what's still there? You know, there are other nuclear reactors, nuclear centers in other parts of Israel. I mean, that they're along the Mediterranean coast. They have another one right along the Mediterranean coast. So, you know, the height. And do you really think that they store any nuclear bombs there? I sincerely doubt that. You know. So, but Damona is up under a greater shield of protection than any Iron Dome could ever provide, and that's the dome that Yah, you know, would put, the umbrella that our spirituality, the umbrella that our lifestyle, that our 24/7 relationship provides for us. And I'll just say this, that you know, in Deuteronomy, when it speaks of your heavens being brass and the earth beneath you iron, for us, we always interpret it as that the iron, the earth, is that the earth wouldn't yield for you. It wouldn't give you the nutrition. It wouldn't give you the necessary sustenance that you require. And the heavens being brass, that was representative of, you know, your prayers, you know, going forth. They couldn't get to heaven. They couldn't get to Yah. Although, you know, we understand that Yah is not up there in the sky like that, but nevertheless, that was the interpretation that we always relayed when we were listening to that. So we're sincerely in a good place, in what we think to be the best place. And sometimes, you know, they say in a hurricane, what's the quietest place? In the center. You know, it's an eerie thing, I've heard, you know, being in the center of a hurricane, and as that hurricane moves, you're going to catch it on the other end too. I'm sure our brother in Puerto Rico knows what I'm talking about. But so anyway, I hope that that responded.
They did,
No, we're
you know,
good.
Nah, most definitely, I appreciate that. Now I want to pick your brain before I ask you the question. I want to pick your brain a little bit. You know why? You know, now, all right, because you're saying something. I want to go back to this writing on the wall. This writing on the wall with Daniel. Now with Babylon. Now in Israel, is things set up there. All right, different protocol, like you said, that the messages, these things, will come on. You got a certain amount of minutes to get to the nearest bomb shelter or get into the nearest safe room, within these houses. So it's a mechanism set up. The writing on the wall with Babylon, with America, because most people were, oh, you're all over there. You people even tripping. I'm over here in sub-Saharan Africa. They thinking things, missile can come over here or whatever. It just the propaganda. But
Sure.
I want you to elaborate with this. People in America should be more concerned about them. They talking about drones about to hit California. They talking about we know it's sleeper cells, whatever we want to call it. If it's propaganda set up by the U.S. to stage something to make it so they can have prerogatives to do certain things a certain way, But regardless of, or if it is Iran or whatever, regardless of what it is, America don't have those things set in place for a catastrophe or something like that can happen with drones or with missiles, coming in like that. And out there in Israel, y'all have been through like Desert Storm, so this is not y'all first rodeo.
No.
When it comes, y'all done talking about the gas man. Y'all had to put gas, the room. If you ain't coming to this room at a certain amount of time, you locked out the room. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, but elaborate to the people, like, America should be more, Babylon should be more worried than worrying about the Hebrew Israelites that's in Demona. And I'm saying this because people send me messages, blow my phone out. What's going on with the Jews in Demona? But can you elaborate? They should be more concerned. Like you said, you in the eye. The best place to be in the eye of the storm. If you in the,
Well, I've always, no matter how it may have looked and whatever we were going through, we had a saying: no matter how it looks, stay on the ship. It may be rocking, it's stormy, but stay on the ship. We didn't come this far. We didn't escape. We didn't flee the streets of Chicago and DC. DC in my coming up was murder capital of the world. I know at least 3-4 times, and it just moved around to Chicago, to Detroit, and then it started just like it's written, cursed in the city, cursed in the field. Then it started moving south, Atlanta and Houston. So we didn't escape those hellholes and that reality and on a path back to our identity, our origins, our ancestral homeland, to meet a fate that really that a pop bottle rocket from Gaza. And I want to make, before I close out this evening, I want to make a comment about the difference between what was coming from Gaza and what's coming from Iran. I have to explain that. But I'm always concerned and more concerned about our people on that side. And you spoke about the sleeper cells. Well, you've had already 3-4 incidents. I just was looking at a report about our sister, Crockett, who was running for Senate. And the Supreme Court of Texas pulled the rug out from under her. And now she's not only does she lose the Senate, but she's not even able to come back as a representative. But actually, I think that may work out good. We need a sister like that. Somebody need to get into her head and bring her the truth, and awaken her to her identity and calling. That may be part of this plan. But I remain concerned about what's happening there. Again, sleeper cells and lone wolves who are waking up. You never know, but I know this. I know that only will play into the hands of the Project 25 boys and MAGA boys and ICE people. It's only going to further fuel their wrath. They have an intention, and I want to share something that Toni Morrison, the writer, Toni Morrison made this comment, and she says, in race talk, the move into mainstream America always means buying into the notion of American blacks as the real aliens. So this is where this was always going. You, Hebrews, you are the target. It eventually had to come full circle back to you. Yeah, they started with the illegals. But what do you think this whole thing about the 14th Amendment is about? And about the Voting Rights Act that has to come up for ratification every 20, 25 years, has to be re-voted upon by the US Congress. The disenfranchising, this is what I'm saying, just happened with Jasmine Crockett. She would have won Dallas. That's her area. That's her stomping ground. They turned out in Dallas. They were coming, the polls were supposed to be open until 9. The Supreme Court said, shut it down. Nobody who came after 7 can vote. Well, that's the end of that. That's democracy for you. That's the rule of law, But Toni Morrison said it. We're the real aliens. And so if the birthright citizenship issue, that's what Dred Scott was all about. That's what the 14th Amendment guaranteed, that if you were born in that society, then you got that right. They don't want you to have that. And that includes you. That's our people. If that is stripped away, we become aliens. Aliens. And so the concentration camps that are being built, that have been built all across America, these cities, I was reading this the other day. See if I can put my hand on it real quick. I think this might be it. No, that's not it. It was in the New York Times about a city outside of Salt Lake City that's way out of the way, that they're going to put all the homeless people there. And what do they plan to do with these expendables, with these obsolete people? Well, I could go on and on this one, because I've been following for the longest time. Do you not think that one day they were going to come for you? And especially when they realize, just as those fishermen that were on that boat with Job, I'm sorry, not Job, Jonah, when they realized that Jonah was the cause of that boat rocking and that sea being tossing and turning, you got to go, man. We are the cause of all of this. It is our presence. It's our presence that's bringing this to bear. And when they come to the realization that it's us, like like it's been said a couple times, our judgment. We are looking at judgment. And we were told, hasten judgment. Well, where did this whole idea of judge not that ye be not judged? No, we have to judge righteously. We have to judge correctly. We have to be taught how to judge. That takes time. That takes wise men and women sharing the criteria and the principles for how to judge correctly, how to look at in context at different situations. Can't judge across the line. But this is what time it is. We can only pray that Yah in his judgment, because he's bringing it, that Yah in his judgment exercises such discretion when it comes to us, because all of us got dirty teaks, as we say. Teak is a file or a bag, you know. So, but Toni Morrison, she made it clear. This was where it was always headed. It meant buying into the notion of American blacks as the real aliens. So I worry. You know, ICE is just warming up. And the more you have these cases of what took place, whatever that last city was,
it was in one. Yeah, the last one happened at ODU in
right,
in
Old
Virginia.
Dominion, right,
Yeah,
right, and they're gonna be popping up all over the place, and you're gonna see more and more whose face, you know. That's why I say, show me the picture. Show me the picture of the perpetrator.
Yeah,
And that is going to hasten. That's going to hasten what they are planning. So I'm worried about our brothers and sisters over there. And hey, I know where you are, you know, in Kenya, that you don't worry about the things that you would have to be worried about in Virginia. You know, that was down in your neck of the woods, wasn't it?
Yeah, that from like these sleeper cells. They if they want to call them, and then
Right.
a dead man tell no tales. You know, can't nobody, a dead man can't. They can call them a sleeper cell, and they saying this is y'all. And the first one happened. What the first one happened exactly right when this round 2 started with with Iran. It happened when in Texas, and the brother had a shirt on that said "Property of Allah."
Right, right away. You know, so yeah, you know, you don't know, we don't know what we don't know how that's going to pan out. But well, I see where that's going to go. I can see where it's going, and just like Nazi Germany, the Jews was caught sleeping and napping. I told the folks in Paris, I said, I can't understand this Europe, this Israeli fawning over Donald Trump, when in his administration they were trying to downgrade the swastika from a hate symbol to it might be some people make them uncomfortable. You know, how do you? I can't understand the AGL and Jonathan Greenblatt defending Elon Musk's Hitler salutes, not one salute, 2 salutes, and call it an awkward gesture. Are you kidding? They're coming for you next. They're not going to stop with us. They don't like y'all. They do not like y'all. There really are some anti-Semitic folks, as they like to use that term. You hear what I'm saying?
Most definitely.
So it's ugly. It's ugly, and it hasn't begun to get as ugly as it's going to get.
Most definitely. Let me ask you this question, and then I'm gonna anybody else want to ask this and answer this? We're gonna wrap this up. This is we often say that as Hebrew Israelites we need to get our own house in order first. So with that being said, is it important for us to start building before we build unity among other blacks, quote unquote, colored people when it comes to like Pan-Africans, Nation of Islam, Christians, otherwise like that? Should we really, put the energy towards building our governance, as Hebrew Israelites, first before we, try to actually be a representation, for our people uniting with other African Americans or other diasporas, other groups, Nation of Islam, Christians, Pan Africans, to that degree.
We don't have too much of a choice. We don't have much control over that. We can only control us and ours. And I've always said that if you make a move, if you actually, you could stand on the street corner preaching about, it's time to go, it's time to leave. But when you actually make that move and leave, you're going to have more impact on those that you had been talking to than if you stayed there another 20 years. And I'll be the first one to say I doubt anybody got 20 years now. But remember, it did say, that we had to put an end to iniquity in our own midst. That was, that's Ben-Ami always stressed the importance of this village, of this environment being a sanctuary wherein the Holy One of Israel would reside and feel comfortable. So you would have to have your house in order. You'd have to be able to invite him in and know that there was nothing in your house that would be offensive to him. There would be no thinking, no behavior, no items, no idols, that would be offensive, in this sanctuary. And so that's been something that we've had to come to terms with and continually come to terms with, because as individuals may stray from the guidelines and the guardrails of divinity, we have to have the wherewithal to say, hey, you can't do that up in here. And if you insist on doing it, it won't be up in here. You'll be out there. We've done that, and we'll continue to do. We have to draw, because all of us will be affected by that. I remember Ben-Ami used a very, very vivid example, and it was during the Gulf War crisis, the last cycle of all this, when Saddam Hussein was shooting Scud missiles over here, and Ben-Ami made a comment. He said that missile might have your name on it, talking about somebody who was being unrighteous or wayward in their behavior. And we don't need to be close to you if that missile's looking for you. So that is the whole idea, Palal and brethren and sisters. That is the whole idea of holiness, separateness, sanctification. There has to be a separation, and at each level of our growth and development, you reach a point. It's almost like school. You go through a cycle, you learn, and then it's time for the test. If you pass the test, you move to the next cycle, you move to the next level, you move to the next level. But each time you're going to be confronted with the challenge, and there will have to be separations, spouses, children, friends. It's just being real. It's just being real. And if everybody's not keeping up, that's the importance of teaching. Teaching priests in the midst and study. Those are the things that will ensure us to be on the same page, and then we can move, as a flock. You can't be too far out in front, can't be lagging either, because you'll get picked off.
Most definitely. Now, I like how you put that though. When it comes to the you saying that have your house in order, so when you invite somebody in, certain things ain't gonna offend them. When they're invited in.
We can't afford to have people come here and look and see something and say, I thought you said, and if it don't make sense, then we hypocrites. Mm-hmm. So we can't afford that. We can't afford it. We don't want to lose their lives because, Brown, they heard something that was an aberration in our midst. And they think y'all ain't no different from. So we have to protect this. We have to protect this.
Most definitely. Most definitely. I know you wanted to mention stuff about the Gaza, Gaza things that's coming from Gaza and compared to Iran.
It's just a note, you know, in Beit Shemesh, it's a town it's about an hour north from us, headed towards Jerusalem, Beit Shemesh. It's a town with a lot of Datim, a lot of the religious Orthodox Jews that live there. A lot of American Jews live there as well. And an Iranian missile hit them last week. And it went through a synagogue, destroyed the synagogue, and it hit the bomb shelter that the synagogue was built on top of. And the bomb shelter is reinforced concrete. But there is no bomb shelter that average people live in here in Israel, or that have access to like we do. Ours is right in front of the house. And anybody can get there within a minute from any of these homes here in the village. You can get to one of the 3 bomb shelters within a minute or less, you know, depends on how quickly you're moving. There's no bomb shelter or safe room that they put in the new modern apartments that is built to withstand what Iran is sending here. It would protect you from rockets that came from Gaza or Hezbollah. A rocket and a missile's another level of size and power, exponentially higher, some of this stuff that Iran is sending now. And so there is no bomb shelter that could sustain a direct hit from the biggest that they're sending here now. That's just being real. Those rockets that were coming from Gaza, even one of those, when it exploded next to a safe room in an apartment, I don't know if you've ever been in one, but they have the metal windows that you close the window, you put the metal, close it up, and the metal is probably 3/4 to an inch thick of iron. And a piece of shrapnel broke through that and hit a little girl in one of the cities near Gaza and killed her. So it's real. It's real. And with all of that, we still worried about y'all. Not you, Kalal.
Yeah. I ain't over there. Hey, look, I ain't been over there in 6 years.
I tell people I ain't got no plan. I have no plans to go over there. Not thinking about it. So.
Yeah, Iran got them cluster missiles now. You know, they shoot off and then they break into, you know, some more little things, you know.
And actually, those might be safer as long as people are where they should be. It's probably better that comes like that, because those are much smaller. It's like hand grenades, you know, that are dropping. But if all of that is a concentrated warhead, and it's just one huge, you may have seen the video of the soldier climbing out of a crater.
Yeah.
With a missile that fell out in the middle of nowhere. And it's a huge crater, you know. So these weapons aren't plain. But here's the last thing I'm gonna say. And I know everybody that's been following this knows that this is the scenario. Ben-Ami told us this 25 years ago. When Israel gets to a point where they are sustaining what are deemed to be casualties beyond what they can sustain, they're going to turn to the nuclear option. That's the fear. And they're backed up against the wall now. Iran does not appear to be ready to back down. I can't imagine it. Trump is saying they want to talk. Well, hey, y'all was talking twice. Y'all was talking twice when you broke the agreement.
You fool me once is on.
They're not, man. What do you can't make any of this make sense.
Yeah.
Revelation 17:17, Yah is put it in the minds of men and women to fulfill his will. Selah.
Nah, most definitely, man. Definitely appreciate your wisdom. For sure, for sure. We went past time, but this is we in some interesting times, interesting times, man. And and I know people, the viewers who looking at this on Facebook, on YouTube, who gonna look at this, after it's streaming, they're gonna be, very, informed, and I hope they act on this information, But definitely, man. Do anybody else have anything they want to say before because we went past a long past time? But anything they want to say based off these questions or anything, before we wrap this up? Now we're gonna wrap it up. We'll stop this live stream.
I'm glad to be back in the mix here. It's just kind of busy for me.